They announced my name like a mistake and meant it. Did I tell you that first? Because the way they said it, the dry, buffered voice of Mr. Ortega the lawyer, the page turning, the polite cough, was the exact moment a lifetime of invisible labor condensed into a single cold sentence. No allocation, he said. Everything to Ethan, their son. The word landed like a hand closing on my throat. I remember the color of the carpet, the heat of the room, the metallic taste of the coffee I hadn't wanted. I remember breathing around the shape of disbelief until the air fit again. When I was 20, I learned how to become ordinary on purpose. I learned to hold the umbrella when it rained on them, to be the one who answered the phone at midnight and wired money at dawn. Mortgages, hospital copays, utilities. My name wasn't on their marquee, it was in the tiny honest type underneath. Paid by. I did it because love looked like steady hands to me, and because silence was cheaper than arguing. Ethan, handsome, easy in sunlight, got the applause. He got the look of pride that made my father's voice change. The warmth that softened my mother's sentences the way sunlight softens a photograph. When he walked into a room, their faces found him like magnets. When I passed through, they smiled politely and went back to Ethan. At my graduation, my father nodded and said, "Well done." Not proud, just checked off. Those small gestures stacked into a pile. I learned to stand on point 2 weeks after the will. The first text came. Bare bones, a single line, transfer the mortgage. No hi, no how. Expectation is punctuation. I stared at it like it was a foreign language, thumb hovering. I didn't write sorry or I can't. I wrote something colder. Ask your son. The reply didn't come. For a moment I felt triumphant, tiny private justice. Then the calls began. My mother's voice, usually wrapped in syrup, cracked into sharpness. You owe us, she said. After everything, you owe us. I could feel the old script trying to cue me, guilt, compliance, the familiar backstep. I kept my voice low. I told her I'd read the will. I said nothing else. It was surgical. Her panic sounded like glass. Weeks passed. Payments I had set up on autopay, 1,000 small acts, stalled. The bank sent letters printed in fonts that felt ceremonial. Foreclosure is a quiet animal. It moves in spreadsheets and notices, in public records where names are grown smaller until they vanish. Every Friday I opened those files like someone watching a tide roll in. Their house, the one painted in summers and Christmas photos, creaked toward an orange notice and a date stamped in ink. Ethan did not step forward. He sent a shaky voicemail between sobs and excuses, saying he didn't have that kind of money, that he'd been building his life, that he was sorry. I listened. He called from coffee shops, from cars, from the kind of apartments that make regret sound wistful. He wanted me to fix what they had chosen. What they had chosen was clear. The boy with charm and blank hands, the easy son, the one who did not carry them through the nights. I had been the ledger of their lives. I had been the late-night confirmation email. So I stopped. I didn't make a speech. I didn't set fire to photos. I withdrew the steady currents that had held their world afloat. You can imagine revenge as fire and noise, screaming at weddings, burning letters in basements. That's not mine. Mine was a slow unspooling, an arithmetic of consequences. I watched their bills pile like snow without shovels. I let the legal notices arrive and collected them as if they were trophies. Each voicemail, "You ungrateful child," arrived and I let it sit unread until the outrage in their voice was only wax. There were moments in the middle of it that felt obscene. I remember a Tuesday, gray and ordinary, when my mother texted, "We made a mistake. Please send money. We'll fix the will. Please." The phone was warm in my palm and I typed slowly as if carving words in stone. You made your choice. Live with it. Or don't. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat. Ethan phoned hours later, voice breaking, breathless. He said, "Why are you doing this? They gave you everything. They raised you." I let a different kind of voice out then, low, controlled, and strange even to me. They did not raise me. They used me. They used me until I learned how to do everything but take up space. If they wanted to call him son, let them. He could be the son who pays for their choices. He could be the one who learned to carry them. The day of the auction felt banal. People in suits, a gavel, a list with names that resembled mine until they didn't. I didn't go. I watched from a distance as strangers, not cruel but practical, walked through their rooms and stamped them into their own ledgers. The house left like a tide, furniture, framed photos, the wallpaper with the floral tear where the cat always sat. everything that had been the scenery of their life. They moved into a tight apartment that smelled faintly of boiled cabbage and regret. Ethan's face at their doorway, once buoyant, had become small and worried. I heard, through the network of calls and passive updates people forward, that he was working extra shifts. He had to learn sacrifice the hard way. As a mortgage notice, as a phone call from a bank teller who uses numbers like prayer. And me, there was a lightness I hadn't expected. Not triumph exactly, more a release, like stepping out of a coat that never fit right. The nights were quieter. I slept without the half-awake dread of overdrafts and late fees. I wasn't celebrating ruin. I was learning the shape of my own boundaries. Here's the part that surprises even me. The twist wasn't that they lost the house. The twist was how small the loss felt once the truth was allowed to surface. For decades I had been the family's unseen backbone. The answer to every emergency. I had been taught, silently, skillfully, to equate worth with usefulness. Reading the will flipped that ledger and revealed who they really loved. A curated image of a son, not the person who actually held their lives together. I didn't cry when I realized it. I laughed then, not cruelly, but like someone who finally understands a long joke told badly. So I did an odd sort of moral accounting. They chose Ethan, I chose myself. I stopped being an automatic check in their wallet. I stopped mistaking invisibility for virtue. And in the quiet that followed, as I walked my neighborhood and listened to strangers' radios and made coffee that wasn't for someone else, I slept better than I had in years. If there's a lesson here, one that isn't a sermon, it's this. People show you who they rely on. Listen. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is answer honestly to the way they treat you. I didn't owe them martyrdom. I owed myself a life that wasn't footnoted. So tell me, what would you have done in my place? Comment below. If this moved you, hit like, share it, and subscribe for more stories where choices cost us more than money. And if you've ever been the invisible one, say so below. I read every comment. I promise I'll answer.